What's up guys, Dr. Doll here. Welcome to another video. You can see that I'm actually wearing a spot of makeup today, which is miraculous, I know. But I figured you didn't want to look at my completely dead face and my large dark circles for the next 10 minutes, so I did this for you, just remember that. Hair is not great, but you know what? I'm in the process of growing it out. It's only so much you can do, right? So, anyways, I'm not here to talk about my personal grooming habits. I'm here because what I would like to talk about is American Girls and why, in my personal opinion, I think they are worth the money. Now, I realize that that is coming from a place of privilege because not everyone can afford to spend over $100 on a doll. I completely, totally understand that. And if you cannot afford a $100 doll, there's nothing wrong with that. And there are plenty of good alternatives that, are in the $20 to $50 range. And we'll talk about some of those today. But if you have the money to spend on a doll, I personally think that American Girls are worth it. And in this video, I kind of want to talk about my reasoning for why I feel that way. So, let's start with the American Girl herself. So, this is a Tenny Grant, and she's wigless, as you can see. But the American Girl, and this goes all the way back to, the original Pleasant Company dolls. They have a soft body. They have plastic, vinyl, hollow limbs that move on a ball socket strung with elastic. Their heads swivel side to side. And it's fastened by either having a long necktie, like this one here, or a zip tie, which Tenny has a zip tie. The zip ties are harder to get off, but you can still clip them and replace them. It's not that big of a deal to replace a zip tie. It's actually a lot easier than a string. But the American Girl dolls, they have the soft body, the vinyl limbs. They have wigged hair. And what that means is that, as you can see, without a wig, they are bald and smooth. There's no holes or anything like that. They have sleep eyes that are closed when she lays down and open when she awakes. Okay, so that is your standard 18-inch American Girl doll. Now let's look at an Our Generation doll. So this is the Target sort of, I hate to use the word knockoff, but knockoff of American Girl dolls. They're 18 inches. They're very similar to American Girl dolls, and a lot of people swear by Our Generation dolls. A lot of people who can't afford American Girl dolls will buy the Our Generation instead. They're much, much cheaper. I should say that most American Girl dolls, unless you do a create your own, their price is $110 US. Our Generation dolls, brand new, I believe, run about $34.99. So a significant difference in price. So as you can see, I mean, just from the untrained eye, they look almost identical. They both have zip tie fasteners in the back. Now, I should note that her arms do not have the same amount of articulation as the American Girl. So while the American Girl moves on a ball and socket joint, the Our Generations can only move forward and backward on a swivel. There is no outward articulation. Not a big deal. Not a huge deal. I think most people would be willing to save $60 or $70 to give up that little bit of articulation. Again, same thing with the legs. They can move forward and backward. They cannot move outward, which makes them a little bit difficult to stand up and pose. Some of them stand just fine. Others, they don't stand. Even brand new Our Generation dolls, some of them do not stand on their own, which I find annoying. Like, if I buy a brand new doll, I want her, and she's built like she should be standing, you know, she's not a rag doll, then I want her to be able to stand on her own. So also, she has the sleep eyes, as you can see. Asleep, awake, asleep, awake. Now, the hair is different. The hair is rooted. So what that means is that if I was to shave her head off, you would see tiny holes all over where the hair is pulled through the scalp, hair strands. And so it's not a wig like the American Girl dolls. It's more like what you would see on a Barbie doll. That's called rooted hair. Very similar, though. You could very much argue the case that it is worth saving $60, $70 and getting the Our Generation doll instead, if you're willing to give up the fact that they don't always stand on their own and you don't have that outward articulation. Other than that, they're fairly much the same, other than, of course, their hair. So, why do I think that this is worth spending the extra $60 or $70? Again, this is assuming you can afford that. If you can't, the Our Generation is a great replacement. It really is. Not everyone's a huge fan of their face. I think it's okay. I've seen a lot worse. But like, there's a lot of cheap kind of American Girl knockoffs that try to do the front teeth, and it looks creepy and weird. So I kind of appreciate that Our Generation has the closed mouth. Sometimes their eyes can look a little dead to me, but especially if you change up the eyebrows, it kind of corrects that. My cat's meowing, so be right back. Okay, so back to where I was. I was going to explain why I think this is worth the extra $60 or $70. Before I get to that, though, I want to look at one other cheaper alternative. And I say cheaper because it's not necessarily cheap. This is the 18-inch, and she is TLC, so I apologize. This is the Madame Alexander 18-inch vinyl doll with the soft cushion body. She does have a partial plastic vinyl body, I'm assuming, so that if she's to wear like a strapless top, it would look more natural than just the cloth showing through. She retails for about $50 on Amazon, and I think why you pay a little bit more for her than for the like Our Generation or the FCM Springfield collection dolls is because of the name. You're paying for Madame Alexander, which is a huge doll name. You know, everyone knows Madame Alexander dolls, and most doll people have at least some kind of a positive feeling towards her dolls, towards certain lines. So it's sort of a staple name in the doll community. So because there's this tag that says Madame Alexander, they can charge a little bit more. So about $50 online. Now, she does have ball jointed arms, so you have that articulation that we talked about, which is nice. You know, you get a little bit extra for your money. You also have it in the legs, which is great. The neck is probably the most significant difference between this and the American Girl doll. So the American Girl doll and the Our Generations have the necktie or the zip tie. This is completely plastic vinyl. And I'll actually show you a headless one. So this is this is a Madame Alexander, the same doll, but her head has come off. And there is a fastener that you put the elastic on that goes through this hole and goes through this hole. And that is how the head swivels and stays put. It's very much like a Barbie doll. And again, she has the rooted hair like a Barbie doll. She has the sleep eyes. So again, very similar. And the face, I think the face is cute, you know. Is it my favorite face? No. And she can stand on her own because of the articulation. So that's a bonus point. And I could bring others. I could bring the My Life dolls. I don't have a My Life doll at the moment to show you. I did have the work on the FCM Just Magic doll. So I'm familiar with how that one is built. And it is incredibly similar to the Our Generation. Again, the arms go forward and backward. There is a zip tie in the back. And the Just Magic, they're called Springfield Collection dolls now, but they are still labeled FCM Made in China. You can buy them at craft stores, but they are known as the Springfield Collection dolls now. I think they retail for $29.99. Might be wrong about that, but the last time I looked, I think that's in the ballpark. So why do I think that purchasing this for $110 is worth it and is better than purchasing this for $34, this for $50, again, she's TLC, or the Springfield Collection or the My Life dolls from Walmart? Why do I think it's worth it? Well, I think about, there's this meme that I see online, and it's this old couple who've been married for like 60 years, and someone asks them, how'd you do it? You know, what's the secret to making a marriage last? And they say, you know, we grew up in a time when if something was broke, you fixed it, and you didn't throw it away. And that's kind of, I take that to relate it to the toy world. Toys used to be made so that if something broke, you could fix it and it would work again. You hear people say, oh, they just don't make things the way they used to. And that's very true. They don't. Things used to be built to last. Toys used to be built to last. And I would say mid-century, mid-20th century, mid to late 20th century. It really wasn't until the 70s that things kind of started happening. A lot of our products started to be manufactured and made overseas, particularly in China, because it was a lot cheaper. The labor was cheap. The materials were cheap. So, you know, cheaper labor, cheaper supplies, bigger profit margin, right? So unfortunately, a lot of our toys today are built to have one life. They are built to be bought and played with by one child, or one family, and then once they have lived their usefulness in that family, they are meant to be thrown away. And this is a good instance of that. So, although I believe Madame Alexander is a U.S. company, and their designs, all of their dolls are designed in New York. They're all made in China. And this doll can be fixed, you know, but it's not really meant to be fixed, if that makes any sense. You can see this incredibly tiny hole. Like, I don't even know how you're supposed to get the other half of the fastener out of there so that you can refasten the head. You know, I have really small needle nose pliers, and I don't think I can get it out of here, even after heating up the vinyl. This hole is also small. Too small to do an eye swap for sure. Probably just big enough for me to get that fastener out. But when they built this doll, they weren't thinking, oh, we need to have ease of access so that when things break, they can be fixed. No, they weren't thinking that. They were thinking, we need to make a cheap doll that's passable, that someone will buy and then throw away. And so dolls like this are, there's nothing wrong with them, and they can be fixed with enough effort. You know, I'm sure I could probably figure out a way to get, you know, under her cloth body here, but then I'd have to re-stitch it up to get to her neck. There's no ease of access. Whereas with an American Girl doll, all I have to do is untie the neck string, take her stuffing out, and I have immediate access to all of her joints, all of the elastic, easily replaceable. Put the stuffing back in, put the head back on, tie her up, she's good to go. So American Girl dolls were designed to have multiple lives. They were designed to serve as someone's doll and then be fixed and then serve again as someone else's doll. And the evidence that I have to back that up is the American Girl Hospital. They have a doll hospital. And they have had a doll hospital since I can remember. But when something happens to your doll, you send it in, they fix it up, it's as good as new. So their dolls have always meant to sort of be fixed and have multiple lives. Now, some other evidence that I have for that is their plastic. Now, I know that Mattel has since bought the Pleasant Company, and yes, unfortunately, everything American Girl is made in China now. It's Mattel. Everything's made in China. But they bought it in order to continue selling the brand. They still had to uphold a lot of the same standards that were put in place originally by the Pleasant Company. And so really they haven't cut too many corners. They've even improved on a couple of things. But like, this is a doll made by Mattel during the recent years, and still incredibly similar to the original Pleasant Company dolls. Not a whole lot's changed. They do zip ties now rather than neckties. Maybe they've changed the plastic formula a little bit. I don't know. But I do know that this plastic can survive quite a bit of heating up. You can leave, I could leave her plastic limbs in a pot of boiling water for an hour and they wouldn't be misshapen in any way. They would still look fine. I could still use them. Whereas I have personally tried to do an eye swap on an Our Generation doll and her face melted. Like, it just caved in and melted. So I couldn't tell you the difference between this plastic and this plastic, but I know that this plastic can stand to be heated and this can't. And that also goes for the FCM dolls, the Springfield collection dolls, and the My Life dolls. they weren't really made to swap the eyes. They weren't made to do eye swaps. So when the eye silvers, when the eye breaks, there's really no way to fix it. You just throw the doll away, which is a huge waste, first of all. And second of all, it's bad for the environment. You know, you're throwing away perfectly good dolls. Maybe nothing else is wrong with them except for their eye has silvered or something's wrong with their eye. And you have to throw the whole doll away because you have no way to get in there to replace that eye. Whereas American Girl dolls, the eye breaks, the eye silvers, no problem. I can fix it. No big deal. So I say all that to say, and I want to again preface this with, this is totally my opinion. This is not coming from any sort of like, I'm not speaking for a large group of people. I'm not speaking for the doll community. I am speaking on my personal experience as someone who has worked on dolls. I believe that American Girl dolls are made better. Even after Mattel bought it, even after, you know, all the parts started being made in China, they are still made better. They are still built to have multiple lives. They are still built to be passed down. They were meant to be fixed when they break and not thrown away. Whereas a doll like this is pretty much meant to be thrown away. You know, now I'm going to try and fix her, but she wasn't really built to be fixed. She was built to have one life and then be thrown away. And in there somewhere is like a weird lesson on, you know, wastefulness and consumerism and you know, just how wasteful we are and can be as consumers. But what I'm trying to say is that, yes, American Girl dolls are expensive, and they always have been. I think they were $100 when they first came out in the 80s and 90s. And back then, you know, with inflation, that was more like $150. Now they're $110, which is still a lot of money. But it's worth it, you know? I have American Girl dolls that I've had for 20 years that have not only been played with and survived, but I can fix them. And if I can't fix them, I can send them to the American Girl Hospital and they can fix them. So they were meant to be fixed. American Girl dolls were built to be fixed. They were not built to be thrown away. Whereas made in China, cheaper dolls, knockoffs, so to say, were built to be used and thrown away. Sort of like, you know, paper plates and paper cups and all of that. So I would love it if we could get back to a place where our toys were built that way again. I don't know that it's going to happen anytime soon or that it's ever going to happen. But I would love to get